Well, hello everyone. Kieran here from Speaking Spurs. We are going to be talking about the fact that we've become a very, very strange team, second half Spurs, as I'm now calling us, because, in the first half, we're pretty much dreadful. No point in watching the team whatsoever. Kieran from Speaking Spurs, talking all things Tottenham. That's what we're going to talk about today. So it'll kind of go over what a weird week we've had, in the sense we've faced defeat in the Premier League, Champions League with decisions about VAR, then back to winning ways in both the league and the Champions League. It's just a weird time because the football we're playing, let's face it, it's not great. It's not great football at all. I don't think many Spurs fans are actually enjoying it. Yes, we're enjoying the position we're in the league. We obviously enjoyed the fact that we went through in the Champions League. So let's talk a bit about that Champions League game where we got the dramatic 2-1 win over Marseille. So as I said, I'm now calling us second half Spurs. We will now play in the last 16 of the Champions League after Clement Lenglet and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, with a beautiful stoppage time strike, snatched that 2-1 win on what was a topsy-turvy night in Provence. In the build-up to the game, we were given a taste of what was going to be waiting for us in the Champions League clash with Marseille as the home fans conducted a firework display ahead of kickoff. Thousands of home fans, they're enjoying their bank holiday in France. They gathered outside the Stade Velodrome. They released a barrage of pyrotechnics. They'd also done a little fireworks display for the Tottenham players. Look, and it's one of them things, they did whatever they could to try and help their team win. They let off fireworks outside Tottenham's hotel on multiple occasions throughout the night, twice notably. I think one of them was as early as 4 o'clock in the morning. But look, we knew what to expect. It's not the first time fans have done crazy things to try and help their team win. We knew that a draw would have been enough to go through to the knockout stages. But, the win helps us finish top of the group. So in the game, Eric Bailly, he was forced off early with an injury. And then Veretout had a good chance of breaking the deadlock when his shot was palmed away by Hugo. We were dealt with our own blow. Sonny, he was forced off with a problem to his cheek. We didn't know what it was at the time. Turns out he's going to need surgery now on that. So, all the best out to Sonny. So that was a bit of a blow. So that was midway through the opening period. We were completely overrun in that first half. It was... we failed to muster a touch inside their box in that first half. And then they deservedly took the lead in stoppage time of the first half when a corner was hooked in by Jordan Veretout and then headed home by former Newcastle defender Chancel Mbemba. And those of you watching may have noticed that Marseille is very much a team made up of ex-Premier League players, notably some Arsenal players. So that was always nice to knock a few of them out. Our coach, Antonio Conte, he was in the stands as well after he was sent off in the last game where we suffered that horrible 4-minute wait for an offside decision to happen, where it turns out, yes, it actually was offside, deemed by the rules because the rules are stupid. Rio Ferdinand confirmed that if you went into every dressing room of a top-flight football team, you can guarantee they all would have thought that because the ball was played backwards, it should be a goal. But hey-ho, who are we to argue? It's the referees, and they're the rules, that's what it is, we accepted it. But anyway, that's why Antonio Conte was in the stands. Then obviously we had the loss of Sonny for his cheekbone injury, the torrid opening period. But then after the break, we were a completely different team. And then we took control really after Lenglet's equaliser. Højbjerg late on struck the crossbar in what we thought was our last chance to win the game. Marseille should have scored late on as well when former Gunnar Kolasinac somehow missed, I'm not going to say an open goal because, there's still a chance Lloris may have got down to it, but pretty much he should have scored a goal. That was their massive moment, and then Højbjerg sealed the victory with a stoppage time winner that put us top of the group, and to leave Marseille, who at one point in the evening were top of the group, left them in 4th spot and out of Europe. So our group was mad. Like, everyone was beating everyone. We obviously beat Marseille in the first game. We lost to Sporting. We won the game. We won the game again against Marseille. We had the dramatics against Frankfurt and Sporting. It's absolutely crazy group, very tight. At some point in that evening, everybody went top of the group and everybody was out of the competition. Now, Frankfurt had a similar situation to us. They went 1-0 down. They ended up winning 2-1. They had, I think it was a late goal as well for them. And they were celebrating like they won the group, and then a couple of minutes later it comes in that we've won. But, you know, they're through, and that'll be great for them after their Europa League success last season. But my God, that goal from Højbjerg, it was beautiful. It was funny in the build-up when you see Marseille's coach on the pitch screaming for something. I don't know whether he was asking for an offside or whatnot. I was worried it was going to be a Jose Mourinho moment from Soccer Aid where he came on and tackled Ollie Mers. But nonetheless, we go through. Harry Kane plays the ball through to Højbjerg, who, you know, a few minutes ago it looked like he was going to have to come off injured, had the legs, running through, and what a finish. You know, absolute scenes. That's the way you want to win a game. You want that last minute goal to actually count, unlike the one we had ruled out the previous week for offside. But, you know, we finished top of the group. So what Christian Stellini said, so he was obviously in charge for the game, Tottenham's assistant coach, he said the performance we have to analyse. We repeat the same routine as the last 3 or 4 games by being behind. We didn't use power or intensity in the first half. We let them play too much in our half. We lose the pitch. They had the control of the game. After the second half, when we changed in a 3-5-2, we had more control. We play a good second half. I enjoy when we win. These guys deserve to win. We are a good team, but we have to show for 90 minutes. We have to do our best all of the game. I spoke with Antonio. He is tired because the game in the crowd for him is not normal. He wastes a lot of energy. It's better to be on the touchline with the players. Harry Kane, he was speaking as well, and he said, we showed great desire in the second half, great mentality. It's been the story of our season so far. We've been more of a second half team. There were a few words said by people at half time that we had to be more aggressive, have more intensity, and I think that we came out in the second half and did that. We got the goal at a good time, and after that we had a few chances to put the game to bed. They had a couple as well, but to see that go in at the end, that was the icing on the cake and a really important goal to finish top. On what was actually said at the break, the striker added, I'm not going into all the details, but of course Hugo being the captain spoke, and Christian and Ryan, so there he's talking about Romero and Ryan Mason, obviously standing in for Antonio. Christian Stellini and Ryan Mason, obviously standing in for Antonio. We've been in that situation before this season, which we were a little more used to that than we want to be. But we weren't panicking, which is the most important thing. We knew it was one goal and we could still qualify, and we're a team that always feels like we're going to create chances, especially in the second half of games when teams get tired. That's what happened, but full credit to the boys and the staff. It wasn't easy not having the manager there, but he was a big part of preparing for the whole week. It was just a really important win and a great win for the club. I think it's always hard to come away from home in a tough atmosphere knowing that a draw gets you through. It's never easy to come out and go full throttle because you could end up being 2-0 down in 10 minutes and then you were in a hole, admitted Kane. He said, we've got to find a balance between dropping and pressing. At the moment, I think we're just dropping and sitting too deep. So there you go. The players know exactly what's happening, and us as fans, all the things we're moaning about. And he's one of the biggest culprits for dropping back and sitting deep. But anyway, he then went on to say, in the second half, we went man for man and took a bit more of a risk. I think we just need to find a little more patience when we are dropping and then being able to get out of that deep block and press, which is what we tried to do, but we're just not quite executing it well enough. We'll pick the game apart over the next few days, which we always do, see where we can improve and try to take that into the games ahead. So ultimately, when you look at it, it's our fitness levels that are getting us through the game. There was a period of the game where we were taking a bit of a battering from Marseille in the second half. After our goal, we took control, but there was a bit where we started to look tired, like it wasn't going to come. Either team could have scored, but I think that just that little bit of fitness took us through. Kind of like it did under Pochettino back in the day. The fitness pushed us over the edge and helped kill games off. That was that. So Kane then said, fitness-wise, we're a really strong team, so we feel like we can always come strong in the second half. Just being in that situation, there's not too much panic. I think we learnt from the Newcastle game. Conceding 2 goals really quickly hurt us. So even when we conceded today, we just tried to get in at half-time and regroup and not concede straight away again. That's what we did. And Clem, so he's talking about Longley, with a really good header at a vital time. After that, the game opened up. They had to go for it to try and qualify, and we exploited that and probably should have done better with a couple of chances we had. But it doesn't matter now. So yeah, the Spurs players, the sleep ahead of the game, obviously we said had been disrupted by the fireworks and whatnot. Kane said on that, it's one of those things, we expected it. We were told that fireworks might happen. I woke up on the first lot, but for the second lot I was fast asleep, thankfully, said Kane. Their fans were incredible. We knew the atmosphere would be special, and that was with one of the stands closed as well. And actually watching the game, the sound was ridiculous. And then I didn't realise one of the stands was actually closed until the camera panned round onto it. He then said credit to them. They're doing everything to make sure their team wins. But so proud of our boys coming to a really tough place. The atmosphere was really hostile. And we had to find something amongst ourselves, players and staff, and we managed to do that. So now Spurs can look forward to Champions League football in the new year after the World Cup. Kane believes the boost from the dramatic win in France can help the team in the final 3 games before the pause in football. He said it was really important just before the World Cup. If we'd have gone out, it would have been a real sting because you know you're coming back from the World Cup and playing in the Europa League. And it's just not the same feeling. So that was really vital. We got 3 games before the World Cup, and hopefully we can use tonight to finish strongly. And if we can be there or thereabouts in the Premier League and get through in the Carabao Cup, it'll be a really good start to the season. So, you know, he's right there. He did go on to say a little bit about the World Cup, but I'm not too interested about that. And I don't think he's ultimately focused on that at the moment. But look, there is an issue. We do start slowly. Yes, our fitness levels get us through. But ultimately, so I was listening to, is it Jermaine Genius, Crouchy, Ferdinand. They're all saying they don't understand. I think Hargreaves as well. They don't understand. If Spurs can do that in the second half, why can't we do that from the beginning? Is it that Antonio Conte doesn't trust the players enough to sustain it? So he's making sure that we have a solid base to start with, grind it out, and then beat teams when they're tired. Because ultimately that seems to be what we're doing. We're waiting for teams to be tired and then using our superior fitness level to, you know, influence the game. But actually, with the counter-attacking players we've got, the defensive resilience of some of our players, there's no reason why we can't just come out the blocks flying. Ultimately, what I would like to see us do is a combination of what's happening. I have no problems with the Conte style as long as it's implemented correctly. I would rather see the players go full hog for the first, 20 minutes, try and get an early goal, then protect that lead with Conte's style that he likes to use from the offset of the game, and then hit teams again towards the end when they're tired. We've got the fitness levels to do it. Unfortunately, at the moment, we haven't had the players off the bench to quite help us. I mean, Lucas Moura's still not quite at 100%. We're still waiting for Kulusevski and Richarlison to take their place back into the first team from their injuries. But I think once they're back, that's the way forward. Attack from the beginning, sit back in Conte's system for counter-attacks after the first 20 minutes, and then bang, second half, pounce on teams' superior fitness. So if we look at the team that actually started that game, it was Lloris in goal, back 3 of Longley, Dyer and Davies, but not the way we would have expected. So Dyer didn't actually start in the middle. He was on the right of the 3, which was a different role for him. Sessegnon and Perisic as the wing-backs, despite the fact that we had 3 right wing-backs available. The left wing-backs were the ones chosen. And then Bentancur and Højbjerg in their usual positions, with the front 3 of Moura, Son and Kane. Obviously, the injury to Son meant we had to shuffle things about a bit. And we did so because we didn't have a third attacker on the bench, so we had to go to the 2. Then the subs that we used in the game were Skip, Hill, Emerson and Bazuma. So let's talk about the players as a whole. Hugo Lloris, he made the low save to deny Sanchez on 20 minutes, and then he had a superb diving effort to push away Veritu's powerful half volley. Couldn't really do much about Mbemba's powerful header that resulted in their goal, but pretty much handled everything that come his way. Wasn't tested too much in the second half. Eric Dyer had a real strange moment on 15 minutes when he actually stopped the ball from going off for a Marseille throw by booting it high over his own head towards his own penalty box. Almost caused a real problem for his fellow defenders, but he improved in the second half and played his part in keeping Marseille from scoring their second. Longley, he was beaten to the early header. Beaten to an early header wide from Sanchez. The striker also breezed past him to test Lloris on 20 minutes. However, he did rise to head home Perisic's deep free kick. And yes, that is another goal from a set piece. I know, it's crazy. Set piece Tottenham. So should we rename ourselves not to second half Spurs? Second half set piece Spurs. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's what we're becoming. That put us level. And then he made some big interceptions at the back and kept steaming up the pitch in the second half. It was a big game from him, and I think ultimately you could argue he was one of the contenders for man of the match for me. I know he got given it, but there's a couple of contenders because Højbjerg was immense in energy levels. So Ben Davies sent a couple of sloppy passes to Marseille in his own half towards the end of the first period. He improved in the second half alongside the team, but like Dyer, he could have proved costly in the first half. Perisic, he was very ineffective in the first half. He did grab the assist early in the second with that fine curling ball for Longley. He got much better as the game wore on and used all of experience and made a huge block in front of the Spurs goal at one point, and that was a massive, massive block because I can tell you for now that was going in. Bentancur, in great form. He drove us on once again with his forays up the pitch and his composure on the ball. He looked to be feeling his hamstring before he came off in the final 10 minutes, which might be a concern because he was actually holding it a bit before he went down as well. So it was obviously something that was building throughout the game. Hopefully he's okay. Højbjerg struggled at times in the first half to keep Marseille at bay, but in the second half he hugely improved. He was absolutely tireless. He smashed the ball against the crossbar in the 80th minute, but he became the match winner with a long busting run and a terrific strike with the final kick of the game, smashing an effort in off the left-hand post. And he epitomised everything that I love about Højbjerg. He's an absolute battler, a proper warrior, and as he calls himself, he's a Viking. That's exactly what he is. There's so many people that criticise him, but this season he has massively improved his attacking prowess. So, look, major credit to the guy. Sessegnon, shaky on the right in the first half, but obviously not his favoured position. He was then switched to the left before the break. Shepherded out the ball that ended up being given as a corner despite the linesman flagging for a goal kick that Marseille scored from. He was taken off at half-time after a difficult first half. Probably the worst performer on the pitch in terms of what he was given, but not ultimately his fault because he was on the wrong side of the pitch for the majority of the time on. Lucas Moura, pretty much an onlooker in the first half, other than losing the ball a few times. He was more dangerous in the second half, albeit without that final ball or touch, other than the one that he teed up for Højbjerg to hit the crossbar. But that's Lucas Moura in a nutshell. Works hard, bit frustrating on the ball, can't really pass. It is what it is. Lovely guy. Sonny only lasted 29 minutes before coming off with that blow to the face. He did look groggy as he was helped off the pitch. It took him a long time to get him off. But before that, he'd struggled anyway, along with the rest of the front three, to keep the ball. When it did eventually come their way, that's it. Harry Kane, he had our first shot on goal after a whopping 52 minutes, which is not good enough, at the end of 7 minutes added time in the first half. And that was an effort that Lopez tipped over. He came close a couple of times in the second half before putting the ball in the net, only to be flagged offside. In the second half, though, he was superb, holding up the ball and taking men on to relieve pressure on Spurs. He provided the late assist for Højbjerg to run through on goal. So yeah, a good game from him as well in the end. So we'll talk about the subs. Bizuma was the first one to come on, and he replaced the injured Sonny. And after a nervy first half, and this is a feature that we're seeing with him, he's very nervy to start with, hasn't quite found his feet with Spurs yet. He impressed in the second half with his strength and his use of the ball. And his use of the ball so far for Spurs has been really sloppy. I don't think that's helped by the rest of the Spurs players, because I think with the ball, especially in first halves, we've been terrible. But yeah, so okay from him. Emerson Royale came on for the second half. He used the ball quite well, actually, when he had it, and he actually gave us more balance in the game. Skip, he replaced Bentancur in the final 10 minutes and put in some important challenges, as he always does. And then Brian Hill, he came on and gave us some fresh legs for Lucas in added time. And I know there were a lot of people early in the game that were actually praying he was going to be the man to come on and replace Sonny. But obviously in the end it was the right decision for that not to happen. So, we can't say either way what would have happened. But look, at the end of the day, we've won, we're through. That's the most important thing. And winning games breeds confidence. Yes, the style of football is a bit frustrating. We are missing Kulusevski and Richarlison. I think Kulusevski is our biggest miss of the season. I don't think people realise just how important he was to us until we were without him. Like his tenacity, his ability to hold the ball, his eye for an assist. He gets a goal every now and again. Massive, massive player, really missing him. And Richarlison was playing well up until the point that he's gone as well. So I think attacking-wise, that has really affected us. It changes the shape. Lucas Moura obviously has come in for them and he's not quite ready. Has played not a lot of football. So that kind of makes sense there. But we do need to find a way to take control of the games early. Because against the massive teams, we're not going to get this kind of break. Like we saw it against Newcastle. I'm not saying massive team at the moment, but Eddie Howe's not a bad manager. He recruited well in the January transfer window last season, and again in the summer. He's building a squad. They're scoring goals for fun. And it was hard work for us against them. So, we need to find a way around it. We can't rely on picking up in the second half and scoring these goals. It's very frustrating, but there is a base there and there is something to be worked with. I think that's the blessing in disguise. Now, fingers crossed we can go into the World Cup on the back of 3 more victories, which would be fantastic. So even with that slight blip that we had in the Premier League, we still sit third. We're through in the Champions League. But if you were to ask me, should we be disappointed if we don't win the Premier League this season? My answer would be no, because we are nowhere near ready to win a Premier League with the way we're playing. And I think that's Conte's system in a nutshell. To win the league with the players we've got, it's not going to happen. We're actually more likely to win a cup game, because in a cup game, it's basically win or bust. So you will find, like in this game against Marseille, Harry Kane was saying, once we got the equaliser, they had to go for it, because if they don't go for it, they don't go through to the next round. And then we push and push and push, hit them on the counter, like we did for the goal right at the end from Højbjerg. So, this system really suits cup football. Group stages, not so much. But once you get into knockout stages, Conte's style could do us some good. So I would expect that the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, we will probably put in a fairly decent run. Champions League, depending on who we come up against, could be interesting as well. We could go quite far. But I think the January transfer window will be key for us to make sure we've got enough players in backup to cover for injuries to anyone in attack. So we need to up the quality a little bit there. But we'll see where we go. But all in all, not too bad. And that is it for today. Consistency on videos is coming now. I'm back, and as I promised, I'm not on holiday again until Easter. So don't worry about it. Thanks for sticking around. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. And until next time, come on you Spurs.